You are listening to Skin, Earth, Vitality, the podcast where ancient wisdom meets modern vitality. If you are seeking to reconnect with your innate vibrancy, you're in the right place. I'm Emily Davis, a seasoned holistic esthetician and herbalist. Join me as we unlock the secrets of ancient skincare practices, explore the beauty of seasonal and nature-based living, herbalism, and true holistic well-being for you and the broader ecosystem. This podcast is brought to you by Stratum Aesthetics. Head to stratumaesthetics.com to find curated skincare, body care, and other wellness products hand-selected by me. Now enjoy the show. Please remember that the information I share in this podcast is based on my personal and professional experience and is intended for educational and informational purposes only. It is not individualized skincare advice, nor is it medical advice. I encourage you to take charge of your own health decisions and listen to your body, seeking out the resources and professionals that best support your wellness journey. I'm so excited for today's episode. We're going to be talking about flower essences and not just what they are and how to use them, which we're going to talk about that, but I'm excited to get into their history and then their impact on the emotional body and their unexpected relationship with skin health. You may be like, what the heck is a flower essence? And I just feel like they're not something that gets talked about a lot. I didn't really know about them until I went to herbalism school. And so you're in for such a treat. They are such a beautiful medicine. This conversation is about subtlety. Flower essences are a medicine that do not force or manipulate, and they're so unique in that way. They support and they remind. They hold this quiet wisdom of nature, and they work at a vibrational level to shift deep emotional patterns. So flower essences are not essential oils and they are not herbal tinctures, although they get confused for both of those. They are, in essence, pun intended, the energetic imprint of flowers captured in water, and it's preserved to maintain their vibrational qualities. So unlike essential oils, which work directly on the physical body through scent and absorption, flower essences work through the emotional and energetic body, helping to basically shift long-held patterns and restore balance within the emotional body. So they are a medicine that goes to work on our emotional body, whereas an herbal tincture or an essential oil is working on our physical body. If you've ever taken what's called rescue remedy or given it to your pets, this is a Bach flower essence. You can find Bach flower essences, also known as Bach flower remedies, in the natural food store. They're in this like slim yellow bottle near the tinctures. It's like a very slim tincture looking bottle. And so you may have already been familiar with them without even being aware of it. Rescue remedy is something I have given my pets for a long time, far before I had ever heard about flower essences. And rescue remedy is basically a remedy for humans or animals that helps with anxiety, and it's something you can like give to your dogs before fireworks. They have rescue remedies specifically for pets. And I just think this is so interesting because I have seen it work with my own animals time and time again. And you can't do a placebo on an animal because they don't know what's going on. And so I just find it so interesting how powerful these flower remedies are on animals. So I invite you to check it out, especially if you have an animal who gets anxious before fireworks, long car rides, before the vet. Rescue Remedy is a fantastic treatment for that. And what's cool with both humans and animals with flower essences, they don't override emotions. They don't numb your feelings. Instead, they're supporting alignment, kind of like basically gently nudging us toward equilibrium. So I want to talk about the history and where they come from before I get into more of like what they are. And I feel like that's going to give you the backstory. I feel like it's important in this case. So Dr. Edward Bach is credited with formalizing the modern use of flower essences in the 1930s. But this idea that flowers hold energetic healing properties, or plants holding energetic healing properties, is so ancient. So we have many indigenous cultures understanding the vibrational power of plants long before the term flower essence existed. Flowers were often used in ceremonies and healing rituals as tools for emotional and spiritual transformation. The ancient Egyptians revered flowers for their energetic properties, using infusions and anointing oils in both healing and death rituals. In Ayurveda, the spiritual and emotional properties of plants have always been acknowledged, and water infused with flowers was commonly used for healing. And then in many folk traditions, including in Europe, morning dew was collected from flowers and was believed to be imbued with this powerful healing energy. Dew has been seen as sacred and was thought to hold the essence of the plant that it rested upon. And this specific instance of dew being worked with is really what I feel is most closely tied to flower essences. But I just think it's important that we nod to the fact of this knowing that has been within us as humans for a very long time. But let's talk about the modern revival of it. So Dr. Bach was a British physician. He was a bacteriologist. He was a homeopath. He was a highly respected physician in his time, very successful. And he specialized in immunology and worked on bacterial vaccines at the London Homeopathic Hospital. So I want to set the stage here a little bit and talk about what was happening in the medical world at the time, because it's going to shed light on why flower essences aren't widely used as therapy today. So Dr. Bach was a homeopath, and homeopathy is a natural healing approach that uses very tiny, highly diluted doses of substances that in larger amounts would cause the same symptoms, essentially helping the body gently nudge itself back into balance rather than overpowering it. So a classic example in homeopathy is using highly diluted onion, Allium cepa, to treat watery eyes and a runny nose. So just like how cutting an onion makes your eyes water, in homeopathy, a tiny diluted dose of onion is believed to help the body recognize and rebalance those same symptoms, making it useful for colds or allergies where you're getting similar effects. So this was highly respected and widely practiced in the 19th century and early 20th century. Super legitimate at the time, used by doctors, hospitals, used by royalty. And then we start to see this huge shift in the medical world in the early 1900s. In 1910, there's a document titled the Flexner Report by Abraham Flexner that gets published. This document, this report, completely reshaped medical education. It evaluated 155 medical schools in the US and Canada, determining which ones met quote unquote scientific standards. So it criticized schools that didn't follow a strict biomedical model. So this report was funded by the Carnegie Foundation and backed by Rockefeller interests, and it completely reshaped medical education at the time. It was meant to evaluate and rank medical schools. And the thing is, the Rockefellers had a vested interest in reshaping medicine because they saw an opportunity to monopolize healthcare and profit from pharmaceuticals, which were derived from petroleum-based compounds. Interestingly, they controlled the petroleum industry. So John D. Rockefeller was the founder of Standard Oil, which is the company that dominated the oil industry and made him one of the wealthiest men in history. And by the early 1900s, scientists had begun discovering ways to synthesize drugs from petrochemicals, which are byproducts of crude oil refining. This was a golden opportunity for Rockefeller. If he could shift medicine away from natural plant-based remedies and toward this synthetic oil-derived pharmaceuticals, he could create a new, massively profitable industry. And before the shift that was to come, most medicine was plant-based. Herbs, homeopathy, energy medicine, they were all widely used and respected. But these natural remedies couldn't be patented, meaning that companies couldn't profit from them in the same way that they could from synthetic drugs. So the Rockefellers and other industrialists needed a way to discredit natural healing and replace it with a system that they could control. This report declared that medical schools that were teaching things like plant medicine, herbalism, homeopathy were unscientific and recommended shutting them down. Schools that promoted drug-based laboratory medicine received massive funding from the Rockefeller Foundation, and they then created a medical monopoly where only pharmaceutical-driven medicine was considered legitimate. They placed their own people on medical school boards, ensuring that new doctors were trained only in pharmaceutical-based medicine. And then textbooks and curriculum were rewritten to reflect this new model, and natural medicine was effectively erased from the system. This was not just about science, it was about money, power, control over medicine. The Rockefellers had a major investment in pharmaceutical companies, and they played a key role in reshaping medicine into a for-profit industry. And this is what I believe to be the actual patriarchy, not just this like abstract concept of male dominance, but a system designed to strip power from anything that exists outside of rigid institutional control. This suppression of plant medicine wasn't just an attack on alternative medicine. It was an attack on intuition, on traditional knowledge, and honestly on nature itself. Medicine, which had once been holistic, pluralistic, and deeply connected to the natural world, was now locked into a model that saw the body as a machine that will betray us, and disease as this malfunction of the machine, and saw healing as something completely outside of ourselves, something that can only come from pharmaceutical intervention. So this shift directly impacted Dr. Bach, who had started feeling disillusioned with conventional medicine. And as he worked at the London Homeopathic Hospital, he saw firsthand how the medical field was changing, how homeopathy was being pushed to the margins, and how emotional and energetic aspects of healing were being ignored. He was starting to realize that medicine was moving away from a whole person approach. And this led him eventually to break away entirely, leaving his really well-respected medical career behind to develop flower essences. And flower essences are the antithesis of the pharmaceutical model. Again, they are not forcing the body into a reaction. They don't rely on synthetic compounds, and they cannot be patented or mass-produced for corporate profit. They're working gently, vibrationally, and intuitively supporting emotional healing and restoring harmony on a very subtle yet highly profound level. And so there you are, folks, why they are not widely accepted by mainstream medicine, because they exist outside of the industrialized, profit-driven medical system that was solidified over a century ago. So Dr. Bach started this gradual journey towards flowers for emotional healing because he was following his intuition that emotions were the root cause of illness and that nature held the key to true healing. So like I said, in the 1930s, he left his medical practice and he began working exclusively with flowers. He identified 38 flower essences, so each flower corresponding to a specific emotional state. And his approach was observational and rooted in the idea that true healing comes from restoring harmony within our body. His first flower essence was impatience. So he would go on a walk and he was drawn to impatience flowers. And this flower is very fast growing and it has an explosive seed dispersal. So he's looking at this, he's observing it on his quiet walks. He doesn't have his cell phone in his hand. He's truly keyed into nature. And he's observing the way that this flower is explosive and impatient. And to him, he's thinking about people in a state of urgency, in a state of impatience and tension. And looking at this plant's personality, he instinctively felt that it would help people who were prone to restlessness and irritation and frustration. People who, like the plant itself, had a tendency towards impulsiveness or quick reactions. So he experimented by placing the flower in water under sunlight, allowing the water to absorb its energetic imprint. Thinking about how dew comes to the plant in the morning. He's basically mimicking this. After testing it on himself and his patients, he saw that the impatience flower had a calming effect. It was helping people slow down and release tension and approach life with greater ease. After that, he went on to identify 37 more flower essences, creating the complete Bach flower remedy system of 38 essences. And this discovery process, as he's going through all of these, was deeply intuitive and experimental. It was not laboratory based. He spent years walking in nature, observing plants, tuning into their energetic qualities, allowing the flowers themselves to guide him. And I just think that's so beautiful. I love thinking about that. Good for him. That's the dream. And those 38 remedies remain foundational, but flower essences have continued to evolve with modern practitioners expanding beyond the original work and exploring new flowers. So that's the history. And I just think that's such a key thing to understand with flower essences. Plus, I just love history and think it's fascinating. But let's talk about what flower essences actually do. So they're working at a vibrational level. They're influencing our nervous system and our fascia to promote emotional processing and release and balance. So they're not containing like biochemical compounds like an herbal tincture would. So like in turmeric, you've got the curcumin that's doing a specific thing. We do not have biochemical compounds making up flower essences. Their effects are more subtle, but that doesn't mean they're not powerful. And I love flower essences so much because I think they are a prime example that you don't have to be loud and ostentatious to hold so much power. The emotional body is just as real and just as complex as the physical body. Yet we often address physical symptoms first, but emotions have a direct and definitely undeniable impact on our well-being. I think we can all agree on that. Stress and grief and anxiety, these don't just exist in our mind. They are going to manifest in our body, in our skin, in our nervous system responses. So what is the emotional body? It's the energetic counterpart to your physical body. It's the space where your feelings live, where your memories live, where traumas are stored. And the way we process emotions or don't process emotions has a direct impact on our health. When emotions are unprocessed, they create stagnation and imbalances that show up in ways that we may not immediately recognize. And this is where fascia comes in. So I think of the fascia and the nervous system as a bridge between our emotional body and our physical body. Emotions don't just exist in the brain, they actually embed themselves in our body. If you're interested in this concept, read the book, The Body Keeps the Score. Chronic stress, grief, fear, all of this can cause fascia to become tight and restricted and dense over time. Fascia is like the body's record keeper, holding on to past experiences and vibrational imprints. And then the nervous system is like the body's translator, determining how we respond to emotions in the moment. So flower essences work by introducing a gentle vibrational shift that helps the body release stored emotions and tension. Fascia is our connective tissue. It surrounds every muscle, every organ, and it's very responsive to energy and vibration. Fascia is a hydrophilic or water-loving system that acts as the body's internal communication network. It's made up primarily of collagen, which has piezoelectric properties, and that means that it can generate and conduct electrical signals when compressed or stimulated. And this is why fascia is highly sensitive to vibration, frequency, subtle energy medicine like flower essences, like sound healing. Water holds energetic imprints. We see this in its exposure to sound, to words, emotions, even intentions. And so thinking about how flower essences are imprinted into the water records the vibrational signature of the flower, creating this frequency-based remedy. And again, the fibers in the fascia create a piezoelectric effect. They're generating electrical charges. Fascia communicates through vibrational and mechanical signals that travel through the body so fast. It's kind of like a wireless communication system. So flower essences are tapping into the fascia's ability to send information rapidly through the body. Just like how a tuning fork can transmit vibrations through a solid surface, fascia is highly responsive to frequency and energy, meaning flower essences can act as a gentle vibrational cue to help release stored emotions and restore balance. For example, Star of Bethlehem flower essence is known for releasing stored trauma. Aspen flower essence can help an overactive nervous system basically shift out of fear-based patterns. Rock water assists in softening rigidity, both in your body and in your mind. So this is something that pharmaceuticals and even herbal medicine can't quite replace in the same way. So I certainly don't want to come across like, oh, use flower essences and they'll cure your whole life. I mean, maybe, but I think that they are a tool in the toolkit. And I obviously think herbs are powerful, but I just think that vibrational energy medicine is a highly powerful tool that should not be dismissed. So flower essences, I mentioned before, they're created through a process that allows this energetic imprint of a flower to be transferred into pure water. So ideally fresh spring water. And the sun is an activator. So you want to do this early in the morning. The flowers are placed in a crystal bowl filled with this water and left in direct sunlight for several hours, allowing this vibrational essence to infuse into the water. Remember, water holds memory. Once the process is complete, the flower material is removed and the essence, the water now, is preserved with brandy to stabilize its energetic integrity. And what makes flower essences so unique is that their power isn't tied to the physical properties, but again, the energetic frequency that they impart. And like homeopathy, the more dilute they are, the more potent their vibrational impact becomes. And I think that's so crazy. The less that you have, the more diluted it is, the more powerful. And I feel like this seems so counterintuitive, but in energetic medicine, subtlety equals strength. The less physical substance there is, the more space there is for resonance and transformation. So each flower carries a specific energetic signature. Every plant has its own personality, just like with humans. For example, some of my favorite flower essences for fear of aging include crabapple. So this is the ultimate self-acceptance remedy. Crabapple is for those who feel disgust or shame or fixation on perceived imperfections. It's going to help shift the mindset from seeing aging as something that's quote unquote wrong to embracing yourself as whole and worthy at every stage. Rock water flower essence is for those who are rigid and perfectionistic and hold themselves to impossible beauty standards. It can help dissolve the belief that aging is something that we fight and instead cultivate self-compassion and fluidity in the aging process. Walnut is a powerful essence for navigating life transitions like aging. It helps break free from societal pressure and beauty standards, allowing for personal evolution and self-trust rather than fear of aging. Honeysuckle helps with nostalgia, longing for the past, resisting the present moment. It's ideal for those who feel that their beauty is behind them and need support in finding joy and appreciation for who they are now. And then finally, lark supports confidence and self-worth, especially for those who compare themselves to younger versions of themselves or feel like they have lost something with age. It's encouraging self-assurance and embracing your own unique beauty at every stage of life. So I make this blend for myself all of the time. And it kind of ties into last week's episode, which was how to love your skin. And I was going to incorporate this into the episode because I do think that working with flower essences can be so helpful for that. But I didn't want to get into the whole, like, what's a flower essence? Because it's a long talk. It's a long explanation. Flower essences can be used individually or in combination. Using the single essence is going to be like more focused, and then the blends can be a deeper, multidimensional, synergistic effect. And most practitioners will recommend blending like 3 to 7. You don't want to get too crazy because too many can dilute the energetic clarity of the formula. So the way I started with them was just doing one at a time so I could see. And then, of course, I have to get creative and artistic with everything. So I started blending things together. You can use flower essences internally. You would put a few drops under your tongue or in a glass of water. I'll put some in a cup of tea often or in a mocktail. You can also apply them topically. So they're most commonly taken internally, but they're just as effective when applied topically. You can add it to facial mists, toners, serums. And this is added as an ingredient to some skincare lines. I know that Laurel incorporates flower essences, which is just another reason that I love them so much. But you can purchase your own flower essences and add them into your skincare. You can find them at the natural food store. You can find them online, obviously. When choosing flower essences, you want to look for brands that preserve the integrity of the process. You can find small artisanal, small batch makers. You can shop for Bach flower remedies themselves. The Flower Essence Society. I love Alexis Smart flower remedies. My favorite one from her is called My Personal Assistant, and it's for if you feel dread of work, procrastination, reliance on caffeine for energy. And the benefits are to make work more fun, to make you unstoppable, to give you energy without jitters, to give you motivation. And that's just one example. She has so many. I love her work so much. So that's Alexis Smart Flower Remedies. You can check her out. But really pay attention to how you feel when selecting an essence. Often the flower that calls to you is the one that you need. You can also make your own flower essence. And there are actually directions in the Herbal Medicine Maker's Handbook, a home manual by James Green. If you are interested in making herbal remedies, I highly recommend this book. It was a required text when I was in herbalism school. And first of all, it's just hilarious. Like, he's so funny when he writes, and it's an enjoyable read, but it also gives directions on how to make all kinds of different therapeutic remedies. And to make a flower essence, you will first select your flower. So you can choose intuitively. For example, last summer I made sunflower essence, and I had sunflowers growing in my yard and they just were calling to me. Or you can research the energetic properties of the flowers and see which ones call to you. And then you want to get your flower in the morning when the energy is most potent, so early in the morning. And then you're going to place your blooms in a glass bowl of spring water and let them sit under direct sunlight for 3 to 4 hours. And then after that, you'll remove the flowers and mix the infused water with equal parts brandy, or if you're alcohol free, you can do equal parts glycerin. And then of course, label your essence with the date and the flower used. The key ingredient is intention. It's not just about making an herbal remedy. It's really about co-creating with nature. So it's so easy, so fun, so powerful. Definitely a lovely summer morning activity when you have a garden full of blooms. Flower essences remind us that healing doesn't always have to be forceful. And there's just something so powerful about working with remedies that are so gentle, but still so transformative. Something that's not overriding you, but guiding you, helping you to remember who you are beneath the layers of stress and expectation and social conditioning. And looking back at the history, I think it's pretty clear that these medicines weren't dismissed because they didn't work. They were pushed aside to make room for profit-driven medicine. And just because something was buried doesn't mean that it was lost. We're in a time where we're turning back toward plant medicine, toward vibrational healing and practices that work in harmony with our emotional body. We're truly reclaiming something essential, which is our ability to heal in ways that feel more aligned. So If you're feeling drawn toward flower essences, I encourage you to explore them. Notice which flowers call to you. Trust that your intuition knows what you need. And thank you for joining me in this conversation. If this episode resonated with you, please share it with someone who might need this reminder. And if you decide to experiment with flower essences, I would love to hear about your experience. Please reach out to me and tell me. Until next time, stay rooted. Let nature's quiet medicine support you. I'll be back next week. Be well. You've been listening to Skin, Earth, Vitality. If you like what you heard today, consider giving me a 5-star rating. It helps other people just like you to find the show. You can shop products and find all of my offerings on my website, stratumaesthetics.com, and follow me on my social channels @stratumaesthetics.